That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
In honor of Black History Month, we'd like to showcase the great Black contributions to the pop cultural landscape as we know it.
This year we'll be celebrating the milestones, heroes, and artistry depicting the Black experience.
So, without further delay, let's explore the history of American Fiction 2023 on Black History Heroes. That's right, folks. Tonight, we are continuing our coverage of this year's contemporary Black cinema theme with a movie that definitely got a lot of attention last year. Definitely kind of landed with a big impact as far as just kind of shining a light on race relations in this country and how we deal with it in a very comedic and satirical and sometimes over the top way. Uh, Dragon, I think I probably have a little bit more critique of this movie than you do, so I'll let you go first on your thesis.
Mm. Yeah, so I remember when I saw this. I went in with no expectations. I was just utterly wowed by it. This is my kind of Oscar movie, man. I thought the satire was kind of brilliant. It was more relevant than ever. It called out the cliches that you and I think everyone have kind of talked to death, and it actually has something to say about them, which you don't always get. I guess the summarize it is that this movie feels like it was made for Mark Bernard, and I'm just tickled pink by that.
It does feel like
It
that,
just
yeah.
feels like you're like Mark Bernard. We're tired of Mark Bernard, critiquing the
Honestly,
movies.
Jeffrey
We
Rush
want
could be playing a version of Mark
right.
Bernard in this movie.
Well, that's the thing. See, Jeffrey Wright's character is very much now, mind you, it's an adaptation of a book, so I mean, take it
Right.
with a grain of salt. But he's very the director put a lot of himself into the Jeffrey Wright character. There's a lot of similarities. There's kind of a vibe there, but the director himself has a background that is almost identical to Mark Bernard. So in a sense, it is very it's very interesting. I don't know. I'm just saying it feels very very linked to. It just feels absolutely made for Mark Bernard. After a guy who's reviewed all sorts of movies and everything, it just feels like let's give him a little bit of what he wants.
Hmm.
I don't know. It was just delightful. I felt.
All right, so yeah, Dragon, I like this movie a lot, and I do think that it's very much held up by the cast. I think, especially I think Sterling K. Brown and obviously Jeffrey Wright are kind of the big players here, and then also we've got, of course, the big Deadpool alum herself. We got Leslie Uggams, who plays a pretty pivotal role that was kind of hidden in the marketing.
Who is not blind?
No, no, thanks for the clarification there.
No, I just want to make sure folks know it. She's not blind.
Dragon, here's my issue with this movie, and honestly, rewatching it, like in the first half, I wasn't having the issue as much, but then I really think the second half kind of loses the plot just a little bit, and that's that this movie is basically trying to do two things. It's trying to be like a serious family drama about coming to terms with a mother who's kind of losing herself, and then you're also throwing in the satirical, like, social commentary that this movie was kind of like advertised on and built on the back of. And here's the thing that I'm kind of split on with this movie, Dragon, is that, like, it's not like the stuff with the mother is unaffecting, because it is very effective, it is very moving, and I think it kind of, it definitely gives us it, at the very least. I think the thing with the mother gives us stakes where, the character basically has to be financially successful at a certain point, and it kind of like lights the fire under his ass, so to speak. But I just think totally by the end of the movie, especially, like, I'm sure we'll talk about some of the choices made in the third act, like, I just kind of feel like the it doesn't necessarily blend that great. I still think it's a really good time. I still think it's a great kind of vibe movie, but it's also got, like I said, a lot of powerful stuff to say about, like, aging parents and all that. I don't know, man. I'm more split on this one than I wanted to be. I will say that when I was doing my rewatch, I was really trying to be as optimistic as I could. I just think I respect the big swings that this movie goes for in the last like third. I just think it kind of goes off the rails a little bit because of those big swings, and that's kind of where I'm at with this movie. Still got a lot of respect for it. I don't think I'm quite on the love train like you are, though.
Yeah. My rewatch, it still held up pretty well for me. Yeah.
I think I liked it better on a rewatch than I did the first time around. So I don't know. It's still just what. Anyways, we'll kind of get into it. We'll kind of get into it when we break the movie down proper. But do you have background on it?
Oh yeah, it's just the skosh.
Okay.
All right, so in 2001, there was a novel put out called Erasure. It was by Percival Everly, I believe. Percival Everett. Percival Everett. He wrote this novel called Erasure. It's very much with the exception of kind of our fun kind of let's just call it a multiple choice ending, kind of the ambiguity we have at the very end of this movie. It's pretty much verbatim what we end up getting. So it's pretty. Obviously, it's modernized because it was like circa 2001, but we hit the same plot beats. Only we have like a really kind of a lot of fun with the ending, and obviously we modernized it. But it's pretty straight. It's pretty spot on adaptation. So anyway, Cord Jefferson. Cord Jefferson is the director and the writer on this film. Now, he was a journalist, much like Mark Bernard, who also did a lot of TV writing, like Mark Bernardin. Just throwing it out there. Anyway, so we love Mark Bernard here, folks. Anyway, so he was. He'd wrote on a lot of shows like The Good Place and the HBO Watchmen show, and he consulted on Succession.
Mm-hmm.
So he's gotten around, and he's this thing. So he never directed. This is very much a passion project for him, in bringing this book to screen. And so it was a directorial debut. The mandate on the film for him was like, let's lean into the uncomfortable and with the the racial politics, have the conversations that no one really ever has, and just kind of like toe the line between satire and farce. He's very much making a movie with comedy that plays very naturally and just fits into kind of the overall satire. But obviously, we're taking some broad swings here and there, and we are kind of heightening things a little bit. By the same token, though, he's very much aiming for just toeing the line between the two. Anyway, so everyone, I gotta tell you, everyone seemed really happy working on this movie. Looking at some of the behind the scenes stuff, they all seem really overwhelmingly proud of Cord Jefferson on his first directorial, kind of debut there, and I think he's built a lot of respect in the industry, and especially the press. The press really loved him because a lot of the press, being journalists themselves, were kind of looked up to. Oh my God, he made it. They're very happy for him getting the Oscar nomination, and he won. He won for adapted screenplay. So yeah. Mm-hmm. It all worked well. That's it.
Okay, so let's start breaking it down. One thing I will say with this movie, Dragon, is that it's got an impeccable score.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's really something that kind of really came into focus, especially on the rewatch. And I do think that the pacing is pretty on point. We get that opening scene in the classroom, which pretty much just whets our appetite for the social commentary side, where it's like the white student is afraid of the N-word, where frankly, none of the other students seem particularly bothered by it. It's really just this one student that is kind of making the big fuss.
Yeah, the opening, you and I, we've talked about this a lot of the time, especially for you. You love a solid opening, and I think this kind of cuts to the core of a lot of things right from the get-go.
For sure.
So you have Monk, the Geoffrey Wright character, Thelonious Ellison, aka Monk. He's basically debating, how African Americans have had to put up with the N-word. Surely this privileged white college student can as well for a class. And I love the gag of just cutting to like just at the aftermath of this, seeing it bubbling in him, and just cutting to like her like crying as she's leaving the classroom.
Right.
So basically we kind of say everything we need to right at the opening here, where it's funny, and we show Monk's character flaw in his kind of his perspective on race and how he expresses it in a way that it kind of like it's
Like, we're very much on his side, but at the same time, we can see that his approach is very much like not delicate, to put it mildly.
here's the thing. He has it's a very smart and direct approach. By the same token, here's the, I think I love his take on racial politics, which we see all throughout this movie. I really love the point. I love the conversations that we have about it. But I love the cost that we even see here at the beginning. So after he kind of yells at that student, he always every time he does this, it's like a Larry David thing. He kind of alienates him from
Right,
from the
right.
people, and it loses him things. He goes on sabbatical. He's not fired, but essentially he's I don't know if he's tenured or not, but essentially he's on sabbatical because he can't just have him yell at the college students. Yeah, and I love here's a moment that I feel was just written just for Mark Bernard. This feels like such a Bernard
God.
pleasing line. I'm not gonna throw Bernard all throughout this thing, but this one particular did always strike me on the rewatch as funny. So we have Patrick Fischler, the wonderful Patrick Fischler, from Happy and Once Upon a Time. He's like kind of the rival to the Monk character.
Yeah,
And
I
they had
almost kind of wish that he was. I mean, I understand why he's not in it beyond just this one moment, but even in this one moment, you really get a sense of the history between these two guys.
So the line that summarizes it, I think Mark Bernard is probably laughing his head off. That would be the whole and last time your book was published, there are novels at the airport. I just love your books are sold as the novels at the airport. I don't know that line. Just it's like that's like the most biting insult you could have against like a fellow kind of struggling writer.
Right,
Just
right, right.
and your novels are going to be picked up at the airport.
Throwaway paperbacks.
Exactly.
All right, before we go any further, Dragon, I feel like it's high time we bring out our mascot for Black History Heroes, just to just to give us a little bit of a disclaimer here going forward.
So as you probably guessed, folks, Tiki and I, we are of the Caucasian persuasion. We are we not just Caucasian. We are the whitest white men this side of the internet, all sides of the internet. In fact, yeah, we are. We're the only way we could express it is with a visual example, just for the folks out there who might need it spelled out. Okay, imagine Frasier's darling, Niles Crane, played by the wonderful David Hyde Pierce. Imagine David Hyde Pierce not just going to a ski lodge, but David Hyde Pierce on the slopes in all white, in a white ski suit, like David Hyde Pierce skiing in a blizzard. Essentially, Rabbit in a Snowstorm meets Frasier. That's essentially how white we are, folks.
So, well, we aim to give some insightful commentary from a white perspective, talking about Black media.
We're
We
very
fully
unqualified.
acknowledge the kind of futile quality of our endeavor here. We can only be so insightful.
Sadly, we are not Mark Bernard. Otherwise, we'd be made.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Little Blue says, David Hyde Pierce, the master of skiing.
There you go.
Okay, so what do you think of just the whole like the family drama thing? Because while I do think that the family drama is very it is a good kind of hook for the rest of the movie, my one issue with it is that as far as structure goes, I almost kind of feel like the family drama side of things and then the social commentary author side of things are almost kind of clashing with each other for screen time.
Because they feed into each other, I didn't really think they clash because again they create a necessity for why he has to essentially sell out and just do kind of the basically his version of the Weeze Lives in the Ghetto book.
Which can we just I want to give it up to Issa Rae here because I feel like last year her big kind of pop culture contribution was Barbie, but this I think is an even more memorable supporting performance here where where I love how it's she kind of gets it, she kind of gets that on some level what she wrote is kind of bullshit. she's writing it from a less cynical perspective than
Well,
Monk is, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's still she's kind of in the mode of like, well, I have to talk down to these stupid people, kind of, you know.
exactly. I like. Here's what my favorite thing in the movie on the rewatch, which I mean, I liked it the first go around. It really sunk in on the rewatch. Is that we really do build the whole movie up to those two having that one scene together, which we'll get to. We'll
Yeah.
break it down more towards the third
But
act.
I really like how the first act, it's like he's in the room with her.
Mhm,
He's at the book signing, but he doesn't say anything. And
I
yeah,
love the
you're
visual
right.
of like he's just there, and then like a white lady just with white hair. In fact, she just pops up and she's like, you know, just like just eating it up. It's just kind of the symbol of the movie. Like there's him, there's her, and then there's there's white America right between them.
Well, exactly. And I feel like this movie just has some very, very like there's one moment in particular towards the third act. I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about. That's just like a chef's kiss moment of like, yep,
Yeah,
that's white ignorance right there on full
yeah.
display.
God, yes. Well, we'll get there.
uh,
But so the thing, so the whole the Wheeze lives in the ghetto book.
how amazing of a title is that?
So here's the thing that always throws me. Okay, it's not just
I honestly think it's a much more clever title for a book like this than just having it called "fuck." I mean that's a fun plot point to show how far he can really push it, you know. And it's
which
a
again,
fun,
I want to emphasize that is from the original novel.
right?
That
Yeah,
wasn't just something they invented for the movie. That's like from the
it's a
book.
fun scene, and it kind of does get the point across. But I'm just saying, like, we lives in the ghetto is just like such a. It's very much more leaning on the self-parody kind
I'm
of
just saying with the self
side.
parody, with in terms of the the farce. This is part of like the comedy farce aspect of
Yeah,
it. But again, it's like comedy farce. I mean, this is gonna be kind of a is giving our David Hyde Pierce thing here, but there's a lot of Frasier in this movie, and I love it.
there. You know what? I was gonna say that you're
It's
right about
like the Key and
Frasier.
Peele joke. It's like the Black Frasier joke.
I was gonna say there's kind of an Alexander Payne energy to this a little bit, like the
Yeah,
holdover, sideways, etc.
that's a better example, but sure.
No, but I think the Frasier example fits too. I feel like Alexander Payne and Frasier are kind of come from the same circles.
But you
On
see what I mean, though, in which it's kind of like the whole kind of Frasier Martin dynamic. Only we're kind of applying it to we have kind of we have Monk kind of I don't know. It just feels like Frasier would have those moments where we'd have like kind of like Frasier commenting on like like how droll everything is, or commenting like
oh, totally,
the
yeah. Like when
low
Monk is
brownness
just
of
like
certain things. He would turn his nose up at other things.
when
There's a
Monk
lot.
is hypercritical about stuff in this
Yeah.
movie, he very much has like a Frasier Crane energy
That's
to
what
him.
I'm saying. There's a lot
Yeah.
of the Kells in kind of the way Geoffrey Wright's kind of playing Monk in terms of the whole detective dictionary thing that we do. It's a lot of Frasier there, which feels a lot of like kind of the moments in Frasier in which we'd have Martin just kind of like telling him like oh you're always like this growing up kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Anyway, so with that, it just feels like kind of like Frasier like turn his nose up at like kind of like a kind of a Dr. Phil type of psychologist or what have you. In this case, we have a thing where we have the writer who we have the writer of Principles Indignant, at least he thinks. And then we have on the flip side we have Centara Golden, who is like doing the book reading, and then she's essentially doing it like Ebonics or something. She's doing it in like the very the Wheeze again. It's the S on Wheeze that cracks me up, and that's the farce right there. Wheeze lives, and it's not just we lives in the ghetto, which is I think where we'd all go to, but it's just making it more grammatically inaccurate.
It's almost the kind of like Uncle Tom's Cabin, of like black dialogue. You know what I mean? It almost kind of goes into that territory.
And later on, we had this thing. I forget exactly what the name. I forget if it was like black moments on television or something. But essentially, we had like this is the most farcical gag in the whole thing. And it was so funny where we had like. I don't know. I forget if we just. I think we just like parodied scenes. I don't know if we actually used pulled scenes from other movies. Was they had like the montage? Like we're doing a marathon of like great moments in black cinema. It was basically all the cliche black moments that we all, we all herald. Like like think about like a million Boys in the Hoods moments, just like back to back. It's all like the young black youth dies. Bam,
exactly. Yeah.
But again, just milked in the most hilarious, farcical way. And just the fact that we have him like in the hotel at the book convention, just kind of watching and just like rolling his eyes, like that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so with that too, with the whole book conference and everything, so she's so it's just this non he goes to the bookstore. His I love his dilemma here, where it's like, sorry, he goes to the bookstore and we have like poor the book clerk, poor Ned. He's this poor guy. He's just
He
like saying,
literally
why?
looks like Diet Coke version of Napoleon Dynamite.
I suppose, yeah. So it's just the fact that he's very offended that his very non-racial content, the very non-racial content of his books are being labeled under African American studies, which very almost Curb Your Enthusiasm moments, like, well, they're not. Yes, I am just telling this poor clerk, well,
Oh,
no,
you could
I am.
totally see Larry David pulling something like this. Like, imagine if one of Larry David's books that he just like some sort of comedy book got under like Jewish studies.
Yeah. Exactly. There's this whole thing of like, well, yes, I'm a black man, Ned, but this is the book's not about race. It just happens to be written by a black man. It shouldn't be here. And Monk absolutely right about this, but it's an overreaction that he's going to try and move all the books, knowing this poor clerk. He says, like, sir, they're just going to make me move them back. Don't do that, Ned.
Don't you dare do that, Ned.
Oh, it just cracks me up. Anyway, yeah. So with the family thing. So again, back to your point. What I love about this, Tiki, on the rewatch, I think it really became apparent to me is the fact that the drama that we're seeing unfold before our eyes is what his book should be about. That's a captivating story.
That. I like that angle. Yeah,
is the fact that everything that he's actually going through in his personal life is the far more interesting, and like that's the black story. That's the black story people really that should read. The white America should read that book, and I think they'd all be captivated, like you and I, the white audience members. We are very captivated by what's going on there. I like to think, at least I am.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's the fact that he is, that. On the flip side, though, he's just confounded by the fact he's wrapped up in this little dual identity thing with, like, the sellout book.
I still think that the dual identity stuff is like, it's great when it happens. Like, I definitely think the most inventive scene in the whole movie is that scene where the initial book is being written, and you got the Keith David cameo.
Yeah.
Or like, what do I say? Like, that's great. Like, I love the moments like that in the movie that kind of almost go for kind of like a heightened realism sort of effect there.
Again, this is the far satire thing that we're doing. So,
Sure. Let's just kind of like lay out the family dynamics though, because there's a lot going on with this family.
Yeah.
I mean, starting with Lisa, who I think this movie does kind of like a bit of a magic trick where this is a very hard character to get down, where it's like in just like a handful of minutes of screen time, we have to get to know this character. We have to get to know her dynamic with Monk, and we have to really like her and really see how she's kind of the anchor of the family, only to just bam, like take her off the board in a really dramatic, but also very true to life, like cruelly random kind of occurrence.
My socks were so blown off when they did that. I mean, so again, we meet the Ellison family. I love Tracy Ellis Ross's Lisa. It's just the moment I think we all kind of fell in love with her. Is the whole like the have any of my books changed your life? Oh, absolutely. My dining room table.
Right. Yeah.
That was, again, that sums her up so well, and that she is the loving sister. There's a lot of distance in the relationship, but she still likes him. She's making an effort, and then she's keeping it light. She's a fun character. And so the family dynamic we kind of establish in those scenes, brief scenes we have with her, and then mostly afterwards with Cliff, is that Monk was Dad's favorite. It's very much kind of Legend of Korra to a degree. Monk was Dad's favorite.
A little bit, yes.
Monk was Dad's favorite. The family kind of like they're kind of like an example of like of black excellence, very much, because all the family essentially are doctors. I think Monk technically has a doctorate in like literature, which I think they
definitely some Sidney Poitier kind of vibes going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's just like this. there was a divide where they were very much with mom, and he was very much with dad, and that's just kind of where they where things lied, and because of that, there's a lot of distance between them. Plus, he was very much kind of the intellectual of the family, at least kind of the pretentious intellectual of the family. Let's call it. We had Cliff very down to earth, and Cliff has a lot of baggage with his folks, mainly his mother.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so anyway, so Leslie Uggams. Also just really wowed me. Just the sweet mother battling Alzheimer's, but also just like just the moments of fragility, forgetfulness with her, and just you realizing, oh God,
I
she's
feel like the performance is played like it's really realistic because, like, I feel like much like real life Alzheimer's cases, it's not just a straight downward trajectory. You know what I mean? It's more of an ebb and flow, which I think she really nails here, where she
we
does have
really
a lot of moments of lucidity, and in that lucidity, you kind of get lulled into almost a false sense of security.
like we had good days and bad days. Like the scene where she's sedated by a nurse, like it's like the aftermath, like see, oh my God, it's that bad off screen
Right,
sometimes,
right,
like that.
yeah.
The thing that again, I love the whole like the moment of like the Cliff and Monk are having this conversation, kind of like a bantery, kind of like somewhat of an argument, like the whole Tyler Perry thing, which is really funny. Um, we see the like they're like water's dripping from the ceiling,
Hmm.
and it's like she's overflowed the tub, and I just love that. It's like such a real world, like, oh boy, there's a problem there. And it's more than just forgetting like the name of forgetting that Lisa's divorced.
And it escalates in a kind of realistic degree.
Yeah, like later on we have the whole. It was, I think, one of the saddest scenes in the movie. Sad in a good way. I think one of the saddest scenes in the movie was when she wandered off and everyone's in a panic and they have the flashlights and everything, and it's the fact it's a mother looking for her daughter in the past.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Just something really really provocative about that. Just the fact that she's like it's where she was there. She was present during the the funeral for Lisa, and was on the beach. Essentially, her presence is there. Like she is at that location, and I have to wonder, like, is she remembering the funeral? Is she remembering just a past memory? Like, that's the thing?
I
Like, is
think
it
that's it. I
emotion?
think it's just some sort of random past memory from when Lisa was like a teenager or something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I gotta be honest too. I love this. This is an adorable little thing here. I love how she calls Monk Monkey.
Yes, yes. I can't help but think of Inside Out in those moments, honestly.
Little bit, little bit.
I think I'm always gonna have that when I see a parent calling a kid monkey.
Anyway, so sorry, I drifted off focus there with Lisa. So the way in which we kill off Lisa, it's an inspired and shocking choice that just locked me into the film. Initially, up to this point in the movie, I was like, okay, this is fine. I'm not really seeing like kind of the Oscar of it all, but this is a fine film. And then like when that happens, this is where I'm locked. I'm not saying it instantly becomes Oscar. Give it an Oscar, not yet, no. But it's just this moment of like it really just hit me deep in the feels. I mean, I've been on not in a hospital, thank God, but I've been there. It's the
Sure,
sudden
sure.
and just tragic turn, which I mean, just gobsmacked me, and just like seeing the detail that chilled me to my bones was seeing the feet stop moving. Like that was such a brilliant directorial choice on on Cord Jefferson's part. It was just I don't know, it's the way we played. And then we had like the humor in the eulogy, which is also a nice true to life thing, where we had like like if you're reading this, I've hopefully died under the heaving thrust of a sweaty Idris Elba. So again, we
Or a
go from
little less
such a
glamorously, the sweaty thrust of Russell Crowe.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Add a little realistic humor there, and by the same token, we have kind of the satire in
I
which
love how that's the first time we see Sterling K. Brown in the movie, and we get all we need to know about his character just based on his non-verbal reactions to those jokes. I think that's a really good directorial choice.
and the fact that he's holding the urn, which I think went a
Mhm,
long way.
mhm.
And then also too, so we go from I'm captivated by how we're able to kind of ebb and flow through like the pathos to the comedy to then the satire. We just ease into it really nicely. It doesn't feel like
You know what I
like
think is kind of like an underrated sort of like secret weapon in this whole movie
what do you think?
is the fact that the agent is like he is kind of Mr. Slimy Hollywood, or at least the closest thing the movie has to a character like this.
But he's very likable.
And he still cares about the family. You know, he's still like, I love the moment where
Treats his
Monk's
mother
across
very
the
well.
street. Yeah, he's treating the mother really well. And it's, you know, and you get the sense that if anything were to have happened while Monk was away, like this guy would have been on it, you know?
Yeah,
And so I really do love the fact that the agent is kind of like going above and beyond for Monk because he just sees the potential. And also just because he cares about the guy on a human level. And I feel that the agent character is kind of like the glue that holds the two different sides of the movie together a little bit.
agreed.
Mm-hmm.
I love too. He has like the great explanations, very Saul Goodman explanation of the whole like the Johnny Walker thing.
Oh my god,
Basically,
dude! Oh, that monologue might be the monologue of the movie. Just like it's not like an emotional heavy hitter or anything, but it just tells you all you need to know about like the marketing mentality that this movie has. You know,
yeah.
in
Essentially,
regard,
he's writing Blue Label books, but everyone
right?
it's the same booze, just different bottle, different labels.
Mhm.
You know, it's great. Oh, so we had like the gag where like we have this the nosy neighbor. Are those human remains?
Oh,
And
God.
it just like still is like calling out that guy for being a jerk about it. Like, really, come on, man, time and place.
So Sterling K. Brown's character, I mean, I think it's such a bold choice for the film to kind of like have him be just like a recently openly gay black man who's already kind of like approaching middle age and wanting to make up for lost time. Like, I feel like you could so easily make a movie just based on that.
Yeah,
And
Cliff's story is very interesting from the get go.
it's really great that, you know, it's just kind of like in the background for a lot of it, but his story is like just as potent as anything that Monk is going through on an
Like
emotional
like
level.
Cliff shows up into our story, and we learn that he's he had an affair. His kids are getting made fun of, and you gotta remember. Now, mind you, this is a more modern take on it. I think now probably I'm not gonna say 100% things. Everything's like hunky dory and peachy and everything, but like I have to imagine communities are a lot more accepting this. But back
Trump's
in the day,
America,
like
Dragon. That's all I'm gonna say.
okay, well, the point being, like I'm saying, like even going back to like circa the 90s and the 80s,
Uh-huh.
especially, being gay in the black community was not an easy thing.
Dragon, we made a lot of progress in the whole like accepting and like LGBT people. And then I feel like this past year or so and going forward, we're just
Hmm.
marching that progress
Well, true.
right back to the
Yep.
90s.
Okay. Yes. My point being, just taking on so without working like everything like that. I was everything modern, all the extra layers that we're adding to
Mhm.
that all these days. But I'm just saying the very direct thing of this, his kids get probably might be might be getting made fun of in school or something. The point is the kids hate him for this. Um, he lost a lot of money in the divorce. He's a plastic surgeon, so it's a kind of a hefty chunk of change. Obviously, his mother is going through stuff right now, and he
I'm
can't
a plastic
contribute.
surgeon, Monk. If a patient dies on my table, things have gone very awry.
It's a good line. It is a really good. Yeah. Also, of course, Sterling K. Brown, always a very talented, very gifted
Oscar
actor.
nominated for this movie and in a nomination that not a lot of people saw coming.
Yeah, I mean, it was earned though. I mean, he did a really good
Mhm.
job in this movie. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, Sterling K. Brown never disappoints, though. I mean, it's
I feel like Frozen 2.
okay, fine, but come
That's
on,
not
that's
his
not
fault. It's
it's
just
not
like
his
the
fault.
writers in that movie just like let's throw in like four new characters and have each of them do fucking
Like
nothing.
he wanted to be there and he was ready to do the work. Okay, that's the thing. He was prepared to do the work
Right,
and everything.
right,
Just
yeah.
they don't use that's not his fault though. It's still him giving a good performance, but no character. It's like like okay, Sterling, we want you to play a bagel today. A bagel? Yes, a bagel. Okay.
That's pretty much his character. That's what his character
So
amounts to.
so you just want me to sit there? Yeah, and if you can make me touch your toes, it'll help us. Anyway, so but yeah, so Cliff, just again, this character who again he's got a lot of animosity. Is basically his mother probably. I don't think they kicked him out, but essentially the impression was like things were never the same, and the
I
father.
got the sense that it was kind of like a don't ask, don't tell sort of situation, you know?
Now they don't address they don't say what happened here, but I think the subtext might be that. So they mention that Monk's father killed himself, shot himself in the house.
Uh-huh.
Now one could make the leap. Now again, later on, there's a scene
I
later on that
love
does.
that little moment with the agent where he makes the shooting himself gesture, and then he's like, "Oh shit, Monk, I'm sorry."
Yeah, I forgot.
Again, that little moments like that just humanize that guy so much.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have to wonder because later on we have a scene where Cliff is very certain that his father didn't know that he was gay, and you have to want and he wanted the closure. That was kind of the whole point of that later scene. That still I would have liked closure one way or another, like if he would have accepted me or not.
Mhm.
And you have to wonder though, like, is it possible the way Monk plays that scene though? He's just he says, "Oh, he probably knew." Do you think maybe he shot himself because of Cliff?
I definitely think that the movie implies that there's some ambiguity there. I don't think
Yeah,
we're supposed to know one way or another.
true.
Yeah,
But I think it's
and
interesting.
again, once again, I feel like in Dragon, just for the record, I feel like you're getting me on your side of this movie more and more as we talk about it. So good job there.
Yeah,
Um, but no, I think that I think that like a lot of things in this movie, when it comes to the family drama side of things, it's just realistically ambiguous. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
it's just one of those things where Cliff is never going to know for sure, but he's always going to wonder about, and that's just life, you know.
Hmm. Oh yeah. So let me tell you, I want to highlight this too. 'Cause this is something I really. So Lorraine, we have Lorraine's kind of like she's.
Can we just acknowledge how we've gone like this far without talking about Lorraine? Lorraine is like the MVP of this movie, dude.
So Lorraine is she's essentially kind of like the. It's not live-in, but she's essentially like she's a neighbor who helps out, and I think they pay. The implications
Yeah,
maybe
they
that
do pay her.
yeah.
Yeah,
They pay her, but it's like not an official job. But it's like they give her money to give her. So I don't know how official like a housekeeper or something she is.
I
She's
think it's
essentially
kind of a living caregiver position.
that's the thing. So it sounds like it's just kind of a neighbor who is like a paid caregiver of some
Another thing
kind.
with caregiving, Dragon, is that a lot of times it's not the family itself that's paying for the caregiving. It's like an agency that actually pays for the service.
Well,
So
yeah, but we had that line though where
no, I know. I did. I frankly, I kind of feel like the movie could have done a little bit more to clarify that.
I mean, I don't know. It seems pretty
It's
direct. Where like
whatever.
they're looking to like like cut expenses. Like, well then fine, don't pay Lorraine's. It's like, well, Lorraine's family.
Right,
So
right.
that to me implies okay, they are paying her. I just don't know. Like we don't really need to know that though. It's just Lorraine's there. She's friendly with the family.
I mean, she
She's
just has such a warm presence throughout the whole movie.
like when she sticks up about like you're paying all this money, you better get the sandwich order right. Like
Right.
yeah, Lorraine,
The
take
moment
him
that
to.
really just fucking melts my heart, Dragon, is when she asked Monk to walk her down the aisle.
Oh my god,
I'm just like,
yes,
oh
I'm
my
with
god,
you.
like just yeah, yeah.
See, I want to
Jeffrey
hide. So
Wright
with
has basically Monk has basically like achieved familial nirvana in that moment.
and that's the thing. That's like after like Monk's like lost his girlfriend and everything. That's the win that he needed. It's just
Exactly.
Lorraine is so darn pleasant and wonderful. And here's the thing I want to highlight with Lorraine. Okay, you never see this in any other movies because Hollywood has standards, and it's like this thing of like it has like unrealistic, always the unrealistic standard in Hollywood. And I love that we're going against the grain on this. We have a really charming and really natural love story between Lorraine and Maynard. And we barely see it, but it's just you feel it and it's there. It's the fact that you don't see, like the elderly have like love stories like this, and it's just really nice.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Not even the elderly, because I think the point being, like
I
people are.
really think this movie deserved the screenplay win just because it really does balance a lot. Like you got the family drama side of things, you got the social commentary side of things. By the way, as we're still going to have to talk through the last third, which is
Yeah,
kind of where I'm more on the fence about the two blending. But you've got the social commentary. You've got a little bit of a romantic comedy going on, and then you've also got this like super charming romance between the elderly couple. It's like there's layers to this movie and the storytelling that are pretty impressive.
oh yeah. All right, let's see. Okay, so tell us about the premise of the book, Tiki.
I mean, oh god, it's so stupid, Dragon. Basically, the premise of the book is it essentially spells out every like tropey, like, oh my god, this deadbeat black man is actually my father, and how do I grapple with that? What do I do with that identity crisis?
Yeah,
And
it's
yeah, Keith David just does a wonderful. He's like a one scene wonder here as the father in question. I mean, he just does such a great job, kind of like exhibiting the kind of like stereotypical like deadbeat, absentee black father. Just boiled down to perfection in this one scene.
By the way, they don't say his name in the movie, but I don't know if you caught his credit. Do you know what Keith David's?
No, I did not catch that.
The names are ridiculous on them. Okay, so Keith David is Willy the Wonker.
Oh my god.
Okay, Willy the Wonker. Which I think it's supposed to be worker, but I think they just kind of added like a slang for that's what I think it's supposed to.
Oh.
Anyway, so his son, Van Gogh Jenkins.
Van
Van
Gogh
Gogh Jenkins.
Oh man. Oh, that's perfect.
Anyway, okay. This is all the fact that later on we're talking about casting. It's like Michael B. Jordan wearing one of those, scarves that they wear on their heads, like do rag. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan wearing a do rag and a tank top.
Oh man.
Anyway, so our overall to our premise. So Arthur, the book agent, he tells Monk that he needs a black book because obviously his book is a racial book, but it's not really selling anyway. So point being, facing some money trouble. Initially, Monk just kind of writes this just kind of like as a writing exercise, is kind of like almost like a joke on the writing industry. Like I'm going to write this gag book, My Pathology, with an F. And again, it's most after the really hilarious fourth wall joke, just the most just pandering, just like all the black cliches, all in a novel. And the book takes off, and Monk is like really defensive about this, but his mom needs to be put in a care facility. It's getting bad, so he has to go forward with the deal, which he requires him to forge the dual identity as his pen name, Stag R. Lee.
God.
Yep. Basically, I love that in the creation, the improvised. I love it's improvised on the phone. By the way, so they're coming up within the moment before they realize, oh god, we need to make him sound street and everything.
It kind of reminds me of the whole Family Guy, like P here Griffin, Peter Griffin.
Griffin. I know it's funny. Anyway, but the whole thing of like, he's can we meet him? No, he's a fugitive, just a fugitive gangster writer.
Mm-hmm.
That the white publisher world are going gaga for in every which way. Tell them about the lunch, Tiki.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, this is one of the best scenes in the movie, just because it's like this Hollywood. He's like an agent, right, or or is he a writer? I think he's like a writer director type person, maybe.
I think producer.
Yeah, and he's just like just the more that Geoffrey Wright just bullshits this guy, the more that he's just obviously like, hey, yo, like this is like basically almost telegraphing that it's an act. The more this guy is like, oh my god, you're the fucking real deal.
I think Cord Jefferson's sending a very clear message about white Hollywood and white America,
right?
in this movie. Right. But it's but again, it's like, you know what? This is a non-preachy call out, and I really love it. Just doing it with humor like this again, it's I don't know. It's like, what if Tim Meadows did Curb Your Enthusiasm? That's kind of what this feels like. I don't know.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, a little bit.
All right. Let me see. What was it? Oh, right. So, remember the movie that the Adam Brody producer character is working on?
No, not off the top of my head.
Plantation Annihilation.
Oh my god! Oh Jesus Christ! Yeah, that's just That's a step too far, almost,
Do
man.
you
That
do you remember the premise of Plantation Annihilation?
isn't it something like undead slaves coming back to get revenge, something like that?
I think it's ghost slaves. I think it's literally ghosts.
Right,
Like
right.
like like the ghost slaves come back and they're slaughtering everyone. They might be undead, but I thought it was ghost. And Ryan Reynolds is in it because he's a friend, and
Oh God.
he gets decapitated.
Uh-huh.
God, so just the. It's just funny. It's also kind of I love that in this relevant movie, we also kind of throw a little bit like a little nod to whole like it's kind of the black horror side of things, you know.
A little bit. I mean, one of the movies that was kind of on the table for this Black History Heroes retrospective is The Blackening, which I know is basically like a whole like scary movie style parody just based on the trope of like, the black people getting killed off first in horror movies and kind of poking fun at that. So I
Right.
would like to see The Blackening at some point. Anyways, Colby is here. He's saying he got not kicked out, evacuated out of American Fiction at the theater with 15 minutes to go, and I never ended up going back to finish it. Well, that's going to make the because, like I said, I feel like a lot of my issues do kind of come down to the last 15 minutes. That's going to be kind of interesting to unpack.
Anyway, so I guess overall, every time points every which way he tries to kind of make this thing not sell, that they keep upping the offer. It goes from 750,000 for the book to like $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's just for the book. That's not even for the movie rights. I think.
Right, yeah.
I think the movie rights come into it. Maybe that's where the 4 million comes from. I think at the very least they went up tremendously though, and just for again, and that's then after $4 million, that's when he throws like the F-bomb title at him, and they still we have a Only Murderers alumni in this movie.
Oh yes,
Michael
kind of hard to ignore him.
Michael Cyril Crichton in this, just playing. I just love these playing the most lily white, like book publisher you could ever imagine. God. Anyways, just every turn he's just trying to make this book unpublishable, and he basically keeps failing upwards, which is the way Hollywood actually works.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have so many Sony Spider-Man villain movies.
Right. Nobody wants them, but they keep making them. Why?
Yep.
We don't know.
Failing upwards. Anyway, so just this hilarious satire just of events that just keeps unfolding. So let's take a moment to talk about the love story.
Yeah, I honestly, Dragon, I think the love stories are right. I do kind of think that it literally sort of fizzles out by the end, which I think is a little bit of an odd choice. Like I don't know. I kind of feel like the fact that the love story does kind of fizzle out, and then we kind of spend some of the screen time like with Monk sort of imagining different scenarios for how the love story would kind of like resolve itself. Like I don't know. I kind of feel like the love story is by and large probably the messiest part of the movie. It's still nice, like and you were saying with like this is a middle-aged romance that's definitely a nice one, and there's elements of it that I think are a little half-baked, like the whole I don't really think it was necessary for their first date to get interrupted by this guy who's just like the ex-boyfriend who's on his way out. Like I feel like that whole element was just kind of like an added bit of, I don't know, Dragon, like, you know what I'm saying? I just kind of feel like a lot of my issues with this movie, just as far as like the uneven plot stuff, kind of stem from this a little bit.
Well, so the idea is that was like her boyfriend that basically she was like in the midst of doing the breakup with, and I think with that you're right, it is a complication. By the same token, though, I think it's a complication that prevents it from being too kind of saccharine, like love story, like, and they just met and then they're together just like that. It's like, okay, it's gonna be a little time passes, show some passage of time going on there. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I mean, it's not he's not like a romantic rival or anything. It's just like it's just like an awkward kind of first meeting that kind of like I don't know, maybe kind of grounds it, maybe. I like that
I
she's
could
kind
see
of
that. I could see that a little bit.
like that she's well read. They get along. There's clearly some chemistry there. She's there during some kind of some big moments in his life, doing the with Agnes going missing on the beach,
Sure,
and we have
sure.
that hilarious moment where the whole like, I'm glad you're not white. And then again she's there, and she's also there at
So am I.
like she meets Cliff and everything. So, I mean, I love how integral she really does get to know this family. And in a sense, we have the thing where we have that. It's a really intimate, really weird, but weirdly funny scene where he's talking about like you kind of remind me of my sister,
Right, right.
but in a charming way, and he kind of throws the joke in there. You can kiss like her too, which is just cracks her up. It's just something kind of. But yeah, it's just I don't know. There's like in a sense, it's like Lisa kind of guided her to him in a sense, through her loss. That's the thing,
Sure.
because he's not
In a
really
way.
there. Yeah. Yeah. So point being, however, I think the reason I'm okay with the love story is the disillusion of it. The dissolving of the relationship, just the fact that again, it's a consequence for Monk, acting the way he acted at the very start of the movie, where again he's getting maybe a little too Frasier kind of levels of pretentious there, where he's feeling a lot of guilt over selling out, and he's taking it out on her unfairly and over things she doesn't know about, which is not her fault, and again, just basically critiquing her like she's critiquing all the people that would like the book that he put out as a joke, and
Mhm.
the fact that they don't get back there. I love we have a line that very directly states in real life before we get to the ambiguity of the endings. The two of them do not get back together. He wanted that to happen, but it didn't. So it's a very true to life. Like he screwed up, and she doesn't have to forgive him,
Sure,
unfortunately.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, But we also had a really good line too from Cliff. Like, Cliff's last line in the movie until he shows up at the very tail end of the film. Like, assumingly, this would have been the last time we see Cliff. Cliff has that after he visit Agnes in the home. They dance, and this is after she's been sedated and everything. She's kind of coming out of it. It's a really happy moment. Then she has that heartbreaking line. I knew you weren't queer, which is like, oh my, it's a dagger to
Oh
the
God,
heart.
that's brutal. Yeah,
And then
yeah.
afterwards, when he says goodbye, his last line in the movie, presumably until the very end, is this family will break your heart, which is true. It ultimately it's a fulfilling prophecy. It does break Coraline's heart.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Let's see. So basically getting into the third act. So we have the very heady idea. So we had set up that Monk was basically on this book review committee for a very thankless kind of like, we're going to give a book an award kind of thing. No one's excited about it. They have like 5 authors that to read through all these books, and they say, okay, let's just read through the first 100 pages. Importantly,
I
we
love
kind of
the
are
first
three.
100 pages clause. I think that's pretty realistic.
And that's actually a real thing. Like Hollywood with
Yeah, yeah.
screenplays, you have like there's like by a certain page mark, there's like a sweet spot for how long you want a screenplay. But I think it's like I forget if it's like 140
It's like
pages or not.
something right around there, like 140. Yeah.
130, 140, it's something like
Uh-huh.
around there. It's not 150 though, but that's because 150 onwards, that's where you're getting into like okay, by 200 pages we're Godfather. We don't want that.
Hmm.
Anyway, so importantly, in like a 3-act structure kind of a way. Top of the movie, we introduce Centaura Golden. Then we have like on the committee with him, which kind of peaks an eyebrow from him, and then we build to ultimately the big exchange between the two of them. But so the heady idea that Monk is now forced to review his own book, you know,
Right.
just the whole, and then the whole film has built to this exchange where we see that he and Centaur are amazingly, at least at first, they're on the same page. They don't like this book either, which kind of baffles him. Like she wrote the pretty much the exact same book, and she doesn't like it, which it kind of it confounds him. Which is like, I mean, I'm with her. I don't like it either. For she's
I
agreed
think
with
the
me. Why?
difference that I kind of picked up on is that even though, like, I think she's a little self-aware of the fact that, like, stylistically she went a little extreme with it. She was still writing it from the heart and probably taking influences from her own life, whereas she could probably tell that this was just like basically she could sniff it out for what it was, which
Yeah,
was essentially parody.
yeah, which is a brilliant exchange they have, and her pointing that out to him. Where like, I
Mhm.
love it's a very It's a very interesting conversation. I love that we only have, it's like the one scene they really truly share in this movie. Where she set him down this path, with this book, and that just confounds them. And
Right.
she does, and she doesn't see the irony in the book that she wrote. But again, for the reasons you just said, that's exactly, she says, I did the research. Yes, she did the research, and then she goes on to say, like, yes, I did do a cash-in book, but and I think I love that the last line she has in this movie. That's proper. I know she says, like, I don't like it. I don't like this F-bomb book either. I veto it. Aside
Mhm.
from the whole veto line. And I think technically no is her last line, but let's not get semantical. Just the fact that she in this scene before, literally, we have like the white authors kind of shows up and just kind of
Oh
like
god,
makes
and again, I feel like this is like just the single best like encapsulation of what this movie's point is.
yeah. It's the fact that, so there's this great moment where she essentially says, "Potential is what people see when they're presented with something that isn't good enough." I thought that was on a rewatch. I thought that was it's a brilliant way to summon everything up. Where that's the thing. It's kind of like, I guess the way to the streamline it with an example is it's kind of the Batman Begins line. It's kind of the whole. Sometimes we need dramatic examples to shake us out of apathy. That's essentially what her point is there.
Sure, sure.
We need to show people a gross exaggeration of black culture to get them to actually maybe do something or like take notice of black culture, which again is her saying, yes, I'm selling out my principles as an educated writer like you, Monk, but it is for the greater good. And Monk doesn't quite see that. He sees as just selling out. And that's the fine line between the two of them, which is just really, I think, really fascinating in the writing of this book. Well,
Mhm.
book/movie. And then just the drive the point home even further. We have the excellent visual, like Monk's like on the stairwell of this place, and when he gets up to go back in the room and they're gonna do like the vote or whatever, we see the famous doll photo on the wall. And you ever hear about the famous doll experiment?
Yes, yeah, I did. I have heard of it. Yeah.
I think it's called like I think it's called like it's either the doll test or like the Clark doll experiment, whatever.
Mhm.
It's the point being, it's like we see it there where like, a child is presented with a black child is presented with the black doll and the white doll, and I think it goes for I think it goes for the white doll, uh, because it's like I don't see enough representation of myself. I think
Sure,
the
sure.
point being, what we're seeing there absolutely parallels just the whole theme of the movie there, which is the whole like what's white American going to gravitate towards, and just are we kind of like, are we making a choice that's going to benefit kind of black culture, or something that's going to like kind of not demonize it but make it look inferior for the benefit of black culture in the long run.
Mhm.
I know it was kind of like a cool visual like thing in there.
Yeah,
Anyways,
no, it's great. Yeah.
all right, okay, so again, all the white writers, they love the book. They outvote him, and it wins wins the award. And that's when we get into our ambiguous endings, which again were not in the original novel.
Well, let's call out the that great visual of like it's literally the three white writers outvoting outvoting the two black authors in the building
Yep.
in the room
On the
and just
Franklin side,
explicitly saying like, it's a big problem that black voices are just being heard.
God, it was yes, yes, such a good. I laughed out loud
Oh
thinking
yeah,
when
I
I
feel like
rewatched
that's
this.
like definitely like the like if the whole movie has a punchline, it's definitely that, I think.
God, yes.
All right. But yeah, I don't know, man. With these let me say this up front. I like the actual beat that the movie itself does end on
Yeah.
with the extra and the acknowledgement to him, and like I like that beat. I just I honestly kind of feel like the whole like, oh, let's write like multiple versions of the ending. I just kind of feel like stylistically it gets a little too cute. It's like it's honestly the one thing in this movie. Maybe you convince me otherwise because you've done a good job of I think you did a good job of talking me into the family drama side of things. But I don't know, man. I just think It's the one point in the movie where things kind of ring a little bit hollow, and we're doing a little bit style over substance.
Well, here's the thing. So I want in general. Hold on a second.
I want to make a joke about you being in the same neighborhood that fuck is set in. Just constant crime.
Sorry, I'm actually a fugitive on the run. Anyway, so no, okay. So here's the with the ending. One, I do like the styles that we present. Just on its face, I mean, I do like what we get. As in general, like ambiguous endings are kind of fun, but the fact that we're just kind of poking fun at the whole, like,
But here's the thing: I don't even necessarily think the endings are ambiguous per se. I think it's more so just like.
Well, no, not all the end. I'm sorry, the endings are not the first ending is ambiguous, and that's where Adam Brody's character kind of points out, like, no, we don't like the ambiguous ending. We want a more definitive ending. That's essentially what he's saying, which I think is kind of the commentary. Like, it has become a trope these days. We are doing the ambiguous ending a lot now. You and I, we enjoy the ambiguous ending when we get it.
I champion a good ambiguous ending. Hell yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So the fact is, we do get that, and that's essentially how the book ended. So we do get the book ending with the ambiguous ending. He goes on stage, and we made it a little more artsy. Like, he saw like himself reflected. Basically, it was a little more heady, but essentially it was the ambiguous ending. He basically was seeing, like, I think he saw the Stag Arley projection of himself, which basically is the poster of the movie. That's what it would have been.
Sure.
So that's what the book ending is, and we do get that. So that's our legit ending, and then we get kind of Hollywood, because this is an adaptation of the book, just kind of weighing in on that, like, no, that's not good enough, and let's just see, again, feeding into the farce and the satire of, like, what are the other endings that we would also kind of expect here. So we have, like, the romance thing, because the whole Coraline thing was kind of a dangling thread. It's like, well, I think this is how Monk wanted it to end. He wanted it to end with, like, the kind of the romance, things getting patched up. It's the hopeful ending, but again, people reject the hopeful ending, say it's a little too saccharine, it's a little too sweet, and then we get essentially the kind of the white America, white Hollywood ending, which is like,
the Spike Lee ending, essentially.
Again, we get the Spike Lee ending, which is essentially, as we saw earlier, and this is a great payoff to all, like, we like the montage of, like, this is like, all the great moments of black cinema. It's always like a black youth getting shot down, or like something really sad happening. And it's this throwing in your face, like, this is just, we're not going to learn anything, which is kind of a true to life thing, where we see the tragic thing of, like, no, it's a gun, it's very clearly a glass award, not remotely a gun.
Right. Gun.
We have the dramatic, we have, like, the awesome operatic music and everything playing. We shot them over really dumb reasons. We've taken the dramatic ending, which I think it's a big laugh. After we've done some dramatic stuff, we've done some kind of smart stuff. I think it's an earned gag, but importantly, Tiki, it's the ending that you do like, that connects to that ending. So I think it does legitimize it. Where it's the fact that he's kind of come around to Centaurus thinking, in which he made an attempt. He made an attempt to keep his integrity, and I think that has to be enough for him. Where he took a shot at it. He knows they're going to go for, like, they're going to go for the the black man gets shot at the end kind of ending,
right.
And he and Cliff are laughing to the bank with it. So at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, but we're going to the bank with it. It all worked out, and he's kind of giving a tip of the hat to the extra from Plantation Annihilation. That's essentially like, I've made this sacrifice, so even though it's demeaning, which that extra is the symbol of the movie, Tiki. That extra is like, I'm dressed like I'm on a plantation.
There's almost a little bit of like this is on my mind specifically because one of the movies in my catch-up this month, Dragon, is going to be Gone with the Wind. But it's a little bit of a Hattie McDaniels, I think is her name.
Hattie McDaniels, that's her.
Yeah, where it's like, it's just, it's just like she's kind of cast as the same role, but at least she was getting cast, and at least she was kind of a mover and shaker in Hollywood. And how do you kind of grapple with that?
And that's the thing, that extra is representative of it, and just the fact that he
exactly.
does a tip of the hat to him is basically, it's like, that's Monk saying, I get it now. where it's like, this guy's kind of demeaning himself, but hey, it's regular work, and that's just basically the business of Hollywood. Where like he's doing a movie as ridiculous as Plantation Annihilation because, well, I mean, hey, it's a gig, it's not a lot of people are going to see it, and there's going to be residuals, there's going to be all this. It's the industry, it's a cosmic kind of balance of sorts at the end of the day, where so long as we make an attempt at like kind of legitimacy and just kind of make like a smart movie, even if we have to end in a dumb way, at least people sat through all the good stuff, which one could say is maybe a meta thing if you don't like the ending, where it's like, well, you sat through all the stuff you did like, and then you have the thing of like, this is how we get the movie to clear because we need kind of like a, an ending to acknowledge this.
So my kind of takeaway with this is like, I get what you're saying. I get how the multiple endings thing kind of ties in. I just still think that pacing wise, it's a little bit wonky. It kind of drags its feet to actually get to the ending a little bit.
I kind of see if you're checking your watch during this part of the movie, it's like, it's kind of like a fun surprise of like, well, we have our ending. It's like, what are we going to do now? This is kind of funny.
Right. It's dare I say, I feel
it's an epilogue. It's an epilogue.
It kind of took some influence from fucking Clue of all movies.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, Clue. Yeah, with the whole like the wads, all their different suspects, and then
yeah. Right,
I'm going home to have sex with my wife. Which still I still think is the best ending of the three. Frankly,
I agree.
So ridiculous and fun.
All right. Well, I think we've pretty much hit our bases here, right?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk impact, because I do think that this movie does have a lot of impact in various areas. I think. I mean, first and foremost, just the Geoffrey Wright of it all. I think this is going to probably be Geoffrey Wright's career-defining performance. Wouldn't you say?
I would say so. I'm sure there's another one he's done before this that probably people would cite more iconically. But I mean, to me,
well,
this is like
just as far as like pop culture zeitgeist, you've got stuff like fucking Gordon and The Watcher and stuff like that.
I'm always going to be indebted to Geoffrey Wright because I'm always going to be in support of the man because he's played Commissioner Gordon. He played rather well, I thought.
I thought he was one of the better Gordons that we've had. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But no, you're right, though. Here's the thing. Regardless, I can't recall a lead role that Geoffrey Wright has had. And this is pretty good for him.
Exactly. So that's I definitely going to think, I think is going to be, and even actors like Sterling K. Brown, I kind of feel like this movie brought Sterling K. Brown into like, he's kind of been floating in that kind of like B tier of Hollywood actors. And I kind of feel like this put him a little bit more into that A tier. And even Leslie Uggams, who like up until this point, she's, I feel like this movie kind of showed modern audiences that she could do a lot more than just Blind Al. Like, I mean, she's Academy Award worthy in her own right in this movie. Just the depths that she has to play here.
We didn't really dwell on it, but she had that really great. Her last scene in the movie was the whole thing asking like, are you happy? Essentially, is what you
right. Yeah,
like geniuses aren't happy, but that's or something along those lines where genius is never happy, and that was kind of her fear for him.
So I definitely just think, generally speaking, this movie's going to have an impact just on the cast because I feel like they all kind of leveled up through this movie. Culturally, I definitely think this movie is a conversation starter for sure, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I saw this, man, I was recommending it to a lot of people because again, it was like a thing where I think people were sleeping on it. And again, here's the thing: look, I didn't see
this
it.
This was like the best picture nominee from last year that took the longest to actually come out. It was like the fucking Sing Sing, although Sing Sing didn't end up getting nominated for Best Picture, but it was kind of like the Sing Sing of last year, where it's like, okay, it's gonna come out eventually. But yeah, once it did come out, I definitely remember it getting a lot of traction once it did finally get that wide release.
Yeah. Yeah, the impact of mine, I'm pretty much going to echo a lot of your sentiments there. Just that, I don't, again, this is again, this is the kind of think piece that I do want, because I think it's making a lot of really great salient points. We have excellent performances. It's just I know I appreciate how smart the writing was. I don't know how much of that being an adapted screenplay, how much of that has to do with just pulling from a really solid source material. But again, I want to give kudos to our first time director, who again is a guy who's been in the business, has had a lot of really good ideas writing on the small screen. And I think he brought a lot of his experience as a guy who's steeped. Again, I think it helps too that Corey Jefferson is just a smart guy, being a journalist and just kind of like having like he's critiqued things. He's a writer himself. He put a lot of himself in this movie, and I think he's brought a lot of authenticity. He had a vision for how to do this, and he stuck by, because it took a lot of years to make this happen. And he I think he succeeded. And again, this is the kind of movie that I think Mark Bernard would love. I know he was like talking about it highly. I forget like how much he really loved it. I think he did. I don't know if it's was the movie for him of 2023. It was up. I know it was up there on his top 10 list. I don't know where it ranked.
Sure.
But this I know I can't say enough nice things about American Fiction, and for me it's just I really do hope it gets a lot more love and a lot more notice, and all that every Black History Month, we always have the Black Voices section, or they always hey, all the Black movies come into vogue, during February.
I mean, honestly, Dragon, when you look at it in that respect, what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, let me pull up our guy here. What our white asses are doing right now with Black History Heroes is kind of the same thing that this movie is preaching against.
Well, absolutely, yes.
Where it's just like, hey, let's take Black contemporary filmmakers and just homogenize them.
Yeah.
Honestly, folks, I do think I do like the approach that we're taking this year. I like the fact that all four of our movies that we have lined up kind of Rebel Ridge was much more of a serious drama with crime elements to it. This is definitely a drama, but instead of a crime, it's got more kind of like a comedic sort of satirical beat to it. Then we've got some sci-fi coming up. We've got a movie that's focused purely on romance and music. So it's we're covering a lot of different beats here with our film lineup. But at the same time, it very much is that kind of Black studies sort of sort of fallacy that the movie points out that we're actively engaging in, which I think is fun.
So that's the thing, and because of that, it's it kind of falls into the whole where do you put this on the shelf kind of a thing, where where this movie is very much it's a commentary on how on the racial politics of it all, in a sense, but in the most, I think, in the smartest, most classy way that we've seen it done. It's just a way of it feels like this kind of movie, unfortunately, is going to get buried in look at all those movies from that montage that we saw in that ad on TV. It's people aren't. It feels like people aren't going to learn from this when they absolutely should. It feels like it's going to keep going, but the optimism, perhaps they could see American Fiction and, we'll have a little more self-awareness, which I think is what the end of the movie kind of preaches in the best of ways, which it's an optimistic hope, I know, but,
Yeah, totally.
Anyways, it's a great movie.
All right. Big thanks to Little Blue and Colby for joining us in the comments. And that's all for now, folks. Until next time, when we further educate ourselves and learn the world's not simply black or white, but brimming with color as well as character.
On the next installment of Black History Heroes.
You see, this is our problem right here. We're just not listening to Black voices.
Tyler Perry and Tucson.